All right, guys. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is a big day. And I thank all of you right now for joining us at 11 o'clock Central Time for the College Football Playoff Selection Show. It's a big day, guys. We probably know who's going to be in this top four in the next 15 minutes. We know that's going to be announced around 11:15, and we know who's going to be in the top four. But the biggest question is, where are those seeds going to be? Where are those teams going to be seated? Are we going to have LSU jump Ohio State for number one, which would put an Ohio State versus Clemson semifinal matchup? That's the major question now. If we know who's going to be in, it's going to be LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma. But who's going to get to avoid Clemson? A lot of people say, well, LSU's not trying to avoid anybody. Ohio State's not trying to avoid anybody. But in a way, they are. Because you are lying if you're telling me that you'd much rather play Clemson than Oklahoma in the first round of the college football playoff. So that's going to be the key here in these next 20 minutes or so, is finding out who has a date with Dabo Swinney and the Tigers, a team that, yes, has played a very weak schedule, but has been nearly unstoppable all season long. So thank you to all 31 of you on the line right now. I want to go ahead and see who's all on. Hunter 5657, good to see you. Ethan P., Matthew Fuzzy, Spencer Whitford, Elizabeth, Dontron, Bossmain Johnson, saying that unless Ohio State's number one, they will get blown out after the first round. Litmus, Tupac, he lives. Tupac's here. And Jalen Turner. So hello to all of you. Hello to all 36 of you on the line right now. We're going to be taking your questions all day or all this live stream. We're going to be watching it live as you are watching it live. I'm sure you are from home. Once they are announced, we will be going over these top four, taking any questions that you have for about the next hour or so. Unfortunately, we're not going to know the New Year's Six bowl games officially until 2 o'clock or so Central Time. It's going to take a little while for us to figure that out. They're not going to announce it right off the bat. We kind of have a good idea of who's kind of probably be in it. And there we go. We're getting SportsCenter alerts already. Also, coaching carousel going on. So plenty of news there that we're going to be keeping our eye on for any news that could break during this selection show or during these next few hours. Some potential big jobs in the Power Five that are still up for grabs. Of course, Lane Kiffin has moved on to Ole Miss. Greg Schiano, who's moved on to Rutgers. So a couple holes have been filled. Still got teams like Arkansas, Missouri, Boston College, couple of big name Power 5 schools are still looking for their coach today and for the next few weeks. Evan, who do I think gets that fourth spot? It's got to be Oklahoma. It's got to be. It's got to be the Sooners. I wish that. I wish we had seen a little more chaos yesterday, guys. I wish we had seen a little bit more, excitement. We knew that Ohio State was probably going to win, but the fact that they found themselves down 21-7 at halftime, a game I think a lot of people hoped that Wisconsin could maybe pull off this upset. And the thing is, so for me, is that even if Wisconsin had won, let's say 24-14, Ohio State would have stayed in the playoff. I don't see any way the committee would have dropped Ohio State, losing to the number 8 team in the country at a neutral site from 1 to 5 and out of the top 4. That's just not going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen. So it would have been great, would have shaken some things up, and you would have had a case for Wisconsin to maybe get in over Oklahoma. People would have said that. People would have said, Wisconsin's a 2-loss team. One of their losses is to Ohio State. They avenged that loss today in the Big Ten championship. Maybe we slip them in. But the Badgers, as Hunter has said, as a couple of you guys have said, failed and choked big time, 21-7 against the number 1 team in the country. But I guess the reason they came back, the way they came back, that shows why they are the number 1 team in the country for a reason. But maybe not after today. They might drop down to number 2. I am the committee today. Before I take some of your questions, before we get to all that, if I'm the committee today, this is how the playoff needs to be in the next 10 minutes when they announce this. It needs to be LSU at number 1. LSU at number 1, Ohio State at number 2, Clemson at 3, and then Oklahoma at 4. Oklahoma at 4. Why LSU over Ohio State? Did you watch the SEC championship game? Did you watch the SEC championship game? They beat the number 4 team in the country in Atlanta. So practically a home game for Georgia. Way more Georgia fans and a bit more of an advantage for Georgia. Beat them 37-10. 37-10. Braden Brewer, Georgia's not that good. Maybe so. Maybe the committee did overrate them. But regardless, when they're looking at it, they can't say, oh, they're not that good because they are the ones that ranked them at number 4. So the fact that LSU beat them by 27 in Atlanta against one of the better defenses in the country and just annihilated them. Joe Burrow looked like he was out there playing against a Pop Warner football team. I'm going to be quite honest with you. It was a pitiful performance. And that, to me, showed why LSU deserves to be number 1 in the country. That performance was truly unbelievable. Ohio State at 2, no reason to justify bringing them down below Clemson. Clemson's strength of schedule still enough to I think this kind of lock them into that 3 seed. I think they're kind of like the Notre Dame of last year, Ohio State ran the table last year undefeated, and we knew going into Selection Sunday the Fighting Irish were not going to go any higher or any lower than the 3rd seed and then have a date against Clemson. So that was really, really interesting. So that's who it's going to be, which means you're going to have a Ohio State-Clemson, should have an Ohio State-Clemson semifinal game, which we've seen before a few years ago. Clemson shutting out the Buckeyes 31-0. And then we have an LSU-Oklahoma, which will be really fun to watch. You got 2 great quarterbacks in Joe Burrow. All of those will be great to watch. Better than some of the semifinal games I think we've had in years past. I can't see either of those games being blowouts. If I had to choose one, then I would probably choose LSU to blow out Oklahoma. But still remains to be seen. Let's go through some of the rest of these comments, guys. We'll see who all we have. Vaughn Hook, good to have you, my man. Glad you're here. The best Buckeyes fan. Go Bucks. We've got the biggest Buckeyes fan on the line here, so I'm happy to have you. Josh V, good to have you here. Lil Luigi, Ohio State was still down by 14 at halftime. Yes, still came back and won by 13. Hokie for life, good to see you. General Echo, why are we not watching the college football playoff selection show? I'm in Ecuador and can't watch it from here. We want to see a live stream. General Echo, I don't think this is how it works, my man. We don't stream the show. We never stream the actual show. We come out here to give you the analysis on the show. I know it might be a little misleading, but we're not going to be watching the actual selection show on this live stream. I'm sure I'm going to see all these viewers just tank here in a second because they're banking on getting to watch it. But no, we're going to be watching it the same time you are. We're going to be watching it at the same time you are and bringing you the analysis live. We have no idea what's going to happen here in the next few minutes. Caleb Brimmer destroyed number 23, 62-17. Statistically, Clemson is better than last year, so don't count us out. I think Clemson is the most underrated team in this group of 4. I think they are the team that's not getting talked about enough. And that's crazy to say. I mean, we got the defending national champions here who have won 28 straight games, and no one's really talking about them. Clemson is I mean, yes, we know who they are. We know they're going to make the top 4, but I think everybody's so focused on LSU, so focused on Ohio State. People have disregarded Clemson. And the reason they have disregarded them is because of one bad performance against North Carolina. I think everybody's kind of wrote them off after that. If they had lost that game, I understand. But they did win. And since then, they have been dominant, regardless of their strength of schedule, because they cannot help that. Clemson cannot help the teams that they play in ACC conference play. That's facts of the matter. It's not their fault that the ACC is garbage. But they're looking really, really good. They're going to be very, very rested. And that could bode a problem for Ohio State, who to me showed some weaknesses last night against Wisconsin. If they do, in fact, meet in the semifinals, showed a lot of weaknesses. Jack Cohn was doing pretty good throwing the ball. Jonathan Taylor had, a 44-yard rushing touchdown. So you pair up, you put Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence, 2 guys I think are better, or at least Trevor Lawrence better than Jack Cohn. I think Etienne maybe a little more speed and a little more explosive than Jonathan Taylor could pose a problem for Ohio State. So, you're getting all the live look-ins here from all the respective schools and their programs, waiting on the Final Four. And I think Ohio State's going to be very disappointed to see that they will be number 2 in the country. Although I'm seeing some comments saying that they will not drop from number 1. If the committee does not drop Ohio State to number 2, then I think there's something very, very wrong going on here. I think you look at this, and so you got the case for number 1 here on your season resume. Ohio State owning the edge in the FPI rank and ranked wins. That's it. LSU owns the edge in strength of record rank and strength of schedule ranked. And Ohio State has one more ranked win over LSU, 5-4. And that's based on last week's college football playoff top 25. To me, it's LSU. To me, you cannot justify beating the number 4 team in the country by 27 points in their home state and say, now we're going to keep you at 2, while Ohio State found themselves down by 14 at halftime. Caleb Brimmer, basically, yeah, I can't say that, but he's saying you're idiotic if you think the committee won't lower Ohio State. They have to lower Ohio State. And that's going to be the biggest storyline here. Will Ohio State be lowered? Will they play against Clemson? And, of course, Oklahoma should remain at 4. So this is a pretty easy, the funny thing about all of this is, back when this committee started releasing these rankings, way back towards the beginning of November, and we started doing these live streams, the first 2 weeks were absolutely terrible. The first 2 weeks were horrible. Their decisions and their rankings were some of the worst I'd ever seen from a college football playoff committee. But it seemed to me that after the 3rd week of these rankings, they really picked it up. And they got better. And they figured out they knew football. They learned to watch the games because, I strongly disagree with the first 2 weeks, but now they're getting better. And now here we are in the final rankings about to come out, and they have a very easy day. Now, what has happened out on the field has helped their cause a little bit. I mean, it's kind of common sense for some of it. But for a while there, I was worried that if we had some sort of controversy or a toss-up between 2 teams, that the committee was not going to get it right. But now it's a given that we know who the top 4 teams are. It's just a matter of how do you rank them. So it's been a pretty easy, I think it's going to be a pretty easy selection Sunday. They didn't have to sweat it too much. Biggest thing they're going to have to explain is the seeds. But they're not going to have to explain the teams. If Utah had defeated Oregon, then you would have some controversy and a decision to make. Do you put in Oregon or Utah, or do you put in Oklahoma? That would be the key here. Who else do we have here on the chat as the top 4 is nearing its reveal? Axe compilations. LSU gonna win, and it will be number 1. General Echo, once again, good to have you. Ray, 73-37. Georgia is a dumpster fire. Everybody's saying Georgia was overrated. I'm sure there are plenty of fans out there that would disagree, would not like to hear that, but at the same time, not wrong. All right, guys, here we go. We're about to release the Final Four here. Let's take a look. Of course, I'm doing the streaming service, so shout it out when you see it before I do, if you do. Eagle, the show will do New Year's 6 bowl games, but that will not be until around 2 o'clock Central Time. So we're not going to be on the line that long to show that. But I can tell you for all of you on the line right now, tomorrow, we will have a video out kind of previewing the college football playoff games and the New Year's 6 bowl games that they will announce. We will have a video out on that. We're not going to predict them, but we're going to kind of preview them. And then we will have a prediction for every single bowl game over the course of this bowl season. They start on the 20th or the 21st, and we will have a prediction for every single bowl game, individual videos for every bowl game, all the way up to the national championship game. So you do not want to miss that. Don't miss the preview tomorrow, and definitely don't miss the bowl predictions that we will be sharing, straight-up picks, and, of course, our bowl game picks against the spread over at thegridironexpert.com. So you definitely don't want to miss any of those. Over 40, 41, 42 bowl games, so it's gonna be pretty nice. All right, once again, Hunter 56-57 and Ray, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Caleb Brimmer making some strong cases here for LSU. in Ohio State. LSU beat 5 top 10 teams, which had never been done before. They're going to count that, not to mention Ohio State's early performance compared to LSU's performance. Exactly. LSU dominated that game from start to finish. Honestly, that game was over when LSU got up double digits, and we knew that. We told you that in our Georgia LSU preview. We said Georgia, with the injuries they've been battling, with the suspensions that they're dealing with, could not afford to have a poor first half. They had to go into halftime within one possession. 7, leading, tied, and what were they down? 17-3 at halftime. It was over by then. People didn't want to admit it, but it was over. LSU was not blowing that lead, and Georgia simply did not have the offensive firepower to come back from a double-digit deficit and beat the Tigers. It was not going to happen. And I think you knew it was going to be bad. I mean, you can kind of tell when things just aren't going to go your way. Now, look at that first play of the game. Jake Fromm, beautiful, beautiful throw. Right in the arms. Dropped it. Tons of drops, tons of great throws from Jake Fromm. Receivers couldn't make the plays, but in the next drive, it was Jake Fromm making some bad throws. So you can't lay it all on those receivers. You can't lay it all on Jake Fromm. You can't lay it all on the defense. It was just a poor, pitiful performance from Georgia across the board. Truly unbelievable, and they might be going back to the Sugar Bowl, I believe it would be, right? I think it'll be the Sugar Bowl for the SEC, best SEC team that's not going to be in the college football playoff. Kevin Gardner claiming us to be clickbait. Oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Just go watch it somewhere else. Hunter Shin, what's going on? Glad to have you here. Virginia Tech, I'm going to learn their bowl destination today, as will every other team that's bowl eligible. So we will, of course, be keeping our eye on that. We're tweeting a lot of that stuff out. So if you're not following us on Twitter at Gridiron Expert, make sure you do that. We'll have plenty of updates throughout the day and definitely over the course of these next few weeks. Yeah, I know Ray was very excited about for Jake Fromm's pitiful performance against LSU. Turns out, I mean, LSU's defense, guys, we're not giving them enough credit. We're not giving LSU's defense enough credit here. They are playing extremely well at this time of year. Everybody thought that Georgia would win because of their defense, but it's LSU's defense that's making some big-time plays. They didn't earlier in the season. They were not earlier in the season, but now they are. They are heating up at the very right time, towards the end of the season. Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Georgia. While Arkansas A&M aren't that impressive, the performance they had against the Bulldogs was huge. And let me tell you what, if they annihilate, blow out Oklahoma or Clemson or whoever it is they're going to face in the semifinal, then you might just want to give them the national championship now. I know they don't have one more game after that, but if they win in a big way in their semifinal game, no one is beating LSU, although I would love to see LSU and Ohio State in the national championship. So many great storylines to come of that. Joe Burrow facing off against his former team. 2 great quarterbacks in him and Justin Fields. 2 solid defenses. Of course, I think Ohio State owning the edge there. So you got Chase Young going up against one of the better offenses in the entire country. Rematch of the 2006 national championship game, I think it would be, 2006, 2007. So, I mean, it would just be awesome. Just would be awesome to see LSU and Ohio State in the national championship. Randy Greer, nice to have you here. Once again, Ethan P. predicting bold, going Akron at 1, Rutgers 2, UTEP 3, and Kansas 4. So Akron versus Kansas and Rutgers versus UTEP. I tell you what, I'd love to see a Rutgers-Kansas national championship. Now, that'd be something. And Ray saying Ohio State-Clemson would be a rough semifinal. Well, I'm sure Ohio State knows plenty about that from experience. All right, guys, so here we go. We got the top 4 coming in. Oklahoma, of course, coming in at number 4. No surprise there. Once again, I don't think we're going to have any questions up until the 1 and 2 spot. Who's going to get that number 1 seed? So Oklahoma coming in with the 4. We would presume 3 would, in fact, be Clemson, facing off against either Ohio State if they drop or LSU if they remain the same. New Year's 6 bowl games coming up at 2 o'clock Eastern time if you're going to continue watching the selection show. General Echo, very excited that they made it. Come on. You knew you were going to make it. You knew you were going to make it. All the way in Ecuador, you knew you'd be in there. Oklahoma, no way they were missing out. Although I got to say, it was a thrilling game against Baylor in the Big 12 championship. I was kind of hoping for some Zeno magic. Baylor getting down to their third-string quarterback, but just fell short. Oklahoma and Alex Grinch, phenomenal job dialing up the pressure when it mattered the most, especially against a freshman quarterback. Johnny, the top four right now, or in the top four, is Oklahoma right now. That's all we have. That's all we know. Oklahoma is the number 4 team in the country. And we're once again making the playoffs under Lincoln Riley. Unbelievable. He's yet to miss the playoff yet. They've come close to missing it. You know, they've had some scares, but he refuses to lose. He refuses to get put out. Now, can they finally win a semifinal game? Can they finally get in there? All right, coming in at number 3, I believe we do, in fact, have Clemson. Should be coming up here in a second. Richard Brown making a case. Ohio State as the number 1 seed equals national championship. Ohio State number 2 equals LSU national champs. Basically saying that whoever gets that number 2 seed, you're out of luck because you're playing Clemson. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Clemson going to be in at number 3. This is why it's going to be so telling. You do not want to play Clemson. I'm not saying that Clemson's going to be the national champion. I'm not saying Clemson can maybe make the national championship. All I'm saying is that the game against Clemson is going to be way more competitive than it is going to be against Oklahoma. No doubt. The game against Clemson will be much more difficult than a game against the Sooners. Not saying the Sooners are bad by any means, but Clemson will be much more difficult. Screw who is number 1. The biggest suspense is for who gets in the Rose Bowl for the Big Ten. That's going to be a big one. That's going to be a big decision. Of course, we know Oregon's going to be going to the Rose Bowl after their win over Utah in the Pac-12 championship game. Now, who goes out of the Big Ten? Are we going to be talking Wisconsin? Are we talking Penn State? That's a big decision, so I'm excited to see that. Cyclone Mitch, what's going on, my man? Glad to have you. Glad to have you. And he's back. We are happy to have one of our new moderators on the line with us right now. So, Cyclone, happy to have you. Johnny, we cannot show the video. We've never shown the video before. That's going to be a huge copyright deal. That would be our issue. That's why we're here to bring you the analysis. We're here to bring you the analysis to be coming to you live. Most people are watching it live with us, and then once it's over, we talk. I hate to say that, but that's the way it is. Just the way it is. We can't afford to show the screen because YouTube's a little prick and would take away a lot of stuff for us if we did that. Cyclone Mitch, hate Oklahoma, hope LSU destroys them. Of course, coming from an Iowa State fan, totally understandable. And there you have it, guys. Ohio State has dropped to number 2 in the country, which, as many would say, everyone saw that coming because there was no reason LSU shouldn't have jumped Ohio State, which means LSU, Oklahoma, and Ohio State, Clemson. That is your college football playoff, everybody. And it's going to be one of the better ones we've had in a very long time. And they're showing the view of Ohio State right now. Ryan Day, not thrilled at all. Ryan Day, not thrilled at all. You can just tell on the look on his face, he is not feeling it. My thing is, Ryan Day has no reason to complain. Some of you guys, I'm seeing the comments here, are shocked. Hunter Shin, shocked they dropped Ohio State to number 2. Howie, shocked that they dropped Ohio State to number 2. It's not a shock. It would have been ridiculous to keep Ohio State at the number 1 spot. It would have been ridiculous for Ohio State to keep the number 1 spot. I mean, you look at it. Ryan Day, I'm sure he'll come out and interview him. He'll say, well, I wish we had been number 1. We deserve to be number 1. Well, that's utter bullcrap. If you wanted to be number 1, you shouldn't have gotten down 21-7 to Wisconsin and only won the game by 13. Shouldn't have gotten torn up by Jonathan Taylor and Jack Cohn. Not saying Wisconsin is a bad team. Not saying that Ohio State is a bad team. But if you wanted the number 1 seed, you should have dominated the way you did all season, much like LSU did against a higher-ranked team in a big setting. So LSU, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson. Of course, a few years ago, we had Ohio State and Clemson annihilated the Buckeyes 31-0. That was still with J.T. Barrett. That was still with Urban Meyer. Completely different setting now. 2 different teams, different coach for Ohio State. Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins going up against a strong Clemson defense. And the same can be said for Clemson with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. So there is your college football playoff. The Peach Bowl will be LSU and Oklahoma. And the Fiesta Bowl, which, fun fact, is where Ohio State and Clemson last met in the college football playoff. They will be meeting in the Fiesta Bowl. So 2 and 3 in the Fiesta Bowl. Of course, we're going to have a preview over these games coming out tomorrow. We will have our predictions for these games coming out later in December before they are played, both on December 28th. So plenty of analysis coming out for them. Plenty of analysis coming out for the New Year's Six bowl games and all the other bowl games, from the Bahamas Bowl to the Cotton Bowl to the Sugar Bowl to the Liberty Bowl to the Cheez-It Bowl. We're going to have all the analysis there for you. So we're going to start taking some of your questions and comments now, guys. We've got the biggest thing out of the way, and of course, you're going to sit there and watch the analysts talk for another 3 hours about the 4 teams that we all knew were going to get in there. I think the selection show is way too long, if you ask me. I wish they'd get in there and announce the top 4. They'd announce the rest of the top 25. Within 30 minutes, they're giving you New Year's Six bowl games. And then after that, you let the madness begin on Twitter, where everybody's tweeting out, this team's accepted this bowl bid, this team's accepted this bowl bid, and your feed's blowing up with all these new bowl games. But instead, we've got like a 4-hour show, and that really, to me, seems rather unnecessary. That's just me. So let's start taking some of your questions and comments, guys. Now we've got the big stuff out of the way. So get ready, guys. It's going to be one of the better playoffs we've had in a very, very long time, in my opinion. You know, recent years, we've had some blowouts in these semifinals that haven't been fun to watch. They've been over by halftime. You look at Clemson and Notre Dame last year. You look at Alabama-Clemson when they played in the semifinal game. You look at Alabama-Oklahoma. I mean, last year's playoff was boring. One of the better playoffs we've had was probably when Alabama played against Clemson, but you had that Georgia and Oklahoma matchup. That Georgia-Oklahoma Rose Bowl was one of the best college football games I've ever seen. So you look at that, and you just think, man, that was probably the last time we had a solid semifinal game. I mean, something that was really thrilling and coming down to the wire. You know, we're supposed to put the top 4 teams in here, but usually the favorites are winning big every time. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think you're going to see 2 fantastic games between what are truly the top 4 teams. Johnny, I will not announce the other bowl matchups. We will have, like I said, previews over tomorrow. We will have bowl predictions for every bowl game starting next week. But since they're not going to announce the New Year's Six bowl games until 2 o'clock, which is still almost 3 hours from now, unfortunately, being in college, we do have a thing called finals this week, and got a little bit of work to do on those, unfortunately. So I'm ready to get home. So all I can study and focus is gridiron work, but got to put the academics first. So we're going to be taking care of that. So won't be able to stay on the line all day today. But I did want to get on here with the top 4. And we'll have plenty of bowl analysis coming up. Hunter Shin saying the committee loved Ohio State from the beginning. That's why it's shocking. You know, it's funny you say that, Hunter, because I like that you say that, because everybody's quick to say that the committee has this SEC bias, and that, you know, and that's what people are going to say. Bitter Ohio State fans that are homers and believe that Ohio State should be number 1 no matter what are going to say that the committee is biased towards the SEC, biased towards LSU, and that's why they got the number 1 spot. And as we all know, if you know anything about football, you know that's not true. But you are right. The committee has loved Ohio State a lot. They have taken a lot of liking to them. But I think even with how bad this committee has been at times this year, there is no way they could have justified. When they come and talk to, was it Mullins, the playoff chair, when they interview him, I don't see any way how he could explain why he thought Ohio State deserved to be at number 1. You know, if you're going to do something, you've got to be able to back it up. You've got to be able to tell me why you did that thing. You've got to be able to tell me why you made this decision. And Mullins, as bad as he's been this year, would have even looked more idiotic when he's unable to give an answer, because there would be no reason for Ohio State to be first, just based on the way the 2 teams played yesterday. But very good point. Brandon Trejo, first off, good to have you. Been a while since I've seen you. SEC College Football Playoff makes sure LSU, an SEC team, no surprise. Ohio State should have been number 1, better total body of work. They change criteria every week. So look at that. I'm scrolling through. I'm just talking about some Ohio State homer, and there we go. We got Brandon saying that Ohio State should be number one. Didn't even see that. So, no, Ohio State should not be number one. Plain and simple. Anybody that thinks so, I hate to say it, is wrong. Axe compilations, thoughts on Memphis and Alabama game. If that is confirmed, I do not think it is, but if that is in fact a New Year's Six bowl game, whether that be the Cotton Bowl or wherever it may be, or maybe not even Memphis is going to a New Year's Six bowl game. So whether it be the Cotton Bowl or another New Year's Six bowl game, that's going to be a lot of fun. A fantastic way for Memphis to even put themselves more so on the map, an opportunity very similar to what Central Florida had a few years ago when they faced off against Auburn, and similar to what they had last year when they played against LSU. So I think Memphis would have a fantastic opportunity to beat an Alabama team that is not going to be happy to be in whatever bowl game they go to because they're used to playing for championships and they expect to be playing for championships. And so the fact they're going to be playing in a New Year's Six bowl game or one that's not even there is not something they're going to be excited about. And they're not going to have Tua Tagovailoa. Plenty of their players are going to sit out in their bowl game because in preparation for the NFL draft. We all know that's coming. Not a fan of it, but we know it's coming. So you look at it across the board, and I think Memphis would have a chance to beat Alabama. I just don't think Nick Saban would allow that to happen. All right, we got Jaron Zidziak. Forgive me if I pronounced that horribly wrong. As an Oklahoma fan, I would be pissed as well that LSU jumped Ohio State because having to blow out every team just to get the number one spot is garbage, especially after still beating Wisconsin by double digits. It's not a matter of having to blow out. This is what people have got to get through their head. It's not a matter of having to blow out every team just to get the one spot. That is wrong. That is wrong. The committee's not saying for you to be number one, you have to win every game by double digits or 21 points or 20. That's not what they're saying. But when you look at the collective body of work between two undefeated teams, yes, maybe Ohio State has more ranked wins, 5 versus 4, based on last week's final rankings. Maybe Ohio State has a better FPI, Football Power Index, better rank in the FPI. But strength of schedule, strength of record, LSU owns. Okay? LSU beat the number 4 team in the country, a team that, as the playoffs ended last week, if they started last week, Georgia would have been in the playoff. Wisconsin would not have been. Wisconsin, a team that lost to Ohio State by 31 and then lost to Illinois. I look at it and I say, if Ohio State had beaten Wisconsin the way they did the first time, 38-7, we would not be having this discussion right now. And Ohio State would be number 1, and LSU would be playing Clemson out in Arizona. They do not have to beat every team in blowout fashion. But LSU's resume is very, very strong. And the way they ended was way better than Ohio State. 14-point win over Florida, a top 10 team in the country. A 3-point win over a solid Auburn team, a top 12 team in the country. Many people want to look at that Texas win and say, no, that doesn't count anymore, not that big a deal. Here's what I want you all to look at. Texas 7-5, yes. Does that look that great now? No, but at the time it looked pretty dang good. And let me tell you what, I don't care how good Texas is, I don't care how good you are, to go into Austin at night and win is not an easy thing to do. And LSU did it in shootout fashion. So you've got that. Even more difficult is to go on the road and defeat Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium with Tua Tagovailoa. They did that. They went on the road and won that game by 5. Dominated that game from start to finish. Thrilling matchup between the two. But they did that and went on the road. I don't know if Ohio State could have gone on the road and defeated Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium. I don't. I really do not. Not in Tuscaloosa. What did Ohio State do? They went on the road and beat Michigan? When you look at their road games, they really didn't have any difficult road games. They really didn't. What was it? Northwestern and Nebraska out of the West were their 2 road games. And Michigan, the Michigan win's great. But Jaron, to say that LSU should not be number one. I understand you're mad because you got to play LSU. Maybe you thought you had a better chance against Ohio State, you being a Sooner fan, but undisputed LSU number one. They beat the number 4 team in the country by 27. 27 against one of the better defenses in the entire country. Everybody was trying to kindly remind me in our prediction videos, and I said, hold on. I said, LSU's still going to win. I said, great, they can slow down. That's the thing about LSU in this offense. All you can do is hope to slow them down. All you can do is help to slow LSU down because you will not stop them. They will not stop LSU. No one can stop LSU's offense and shut them down. You can slow them down, but they're not going to beat them. They're not going to slow them down. So, Jaron, I'm sorry that you're upset about that. If Oklahoma can beat LSU, though, then they have a very good chance of winning the national championship, regardless of who it is, against Ohio State or Clemson. That's fact of the matter, my man. But anyone that believes Ohio State should not be number one, or anybody that believes Ohio State should be number one, once again, just simply is either too much of a homer or just doesn't know well enough about football. It's just plain simple. Hokie for Life making a case for Virginia Tech to get into the Orange Bowl because Virginia lost 62-17 to Clemson in the ACC title game. So we'll have to wait and find out about that. Obviously, many people are talking about the Big Ten berth to the Rose Bowl. It'll be interesting to see the ACC berth to the Orange Bowl. Who gets in there since Virginia did not play well. And they were saying, if Virginia remains ranked, they'll probably slip them in there. But I can tell you what, when you lose 62-17, even if it is to Clemson, you're not remaining ranked. And if they are, then once again, the committee, to me, they're like they focus too much on that top 4. That's an issue I've had since the beginning. Is congratulations, you got the top 4. You got them right. Well, guess what? There's 5 through 25 you got to rank well too that do matter. Especially for group of 5 teams. Especially for other teams down the road that are trying to finish high in the rankings so they can get a good bowl win. So, you can't just disregard the rest of the teams that you're going to rank because you're so focused on the top 4. I'd like to say they're not going to do that, but they have in the past. And DJ Power summing it up great there. It's all about the money. Too little sport and far too much color to be excuses instead of reasons for the results we see. And DJ, you're exactly right. The NCAA is a cruel, cruel business. And obviously, the NCAA not choosing who makes these top 4, but the committee is. And the committee, definitely thinks a lot about that money. It's all about who's going to be a more appealing matchup, who's going to bring in more money, more ratings. And I'm not saying that in this one they got it wrong. I think they got the top 4 right, but I do think at times they do and are a little bit biased. Because what is going to be more appealing to the eye? What's going to be more appealing for the fans? And that's not the way it needs to be. They need to do it right. But the NCAA and I've said this with the AP poll, I've said this with the committee, I've said this about the NCAA as a whole. I feel like a lot of it's very corrupt because they focus too much on the things like money and ratings when they need to be focusing on just handling football business. The money's going to come. It's one of the biggest businesses in the entire world. College athletics. How much money you get from that, from donors, from fans, from merchandise, from tickets to concessions, to the amount of money that these programs spend on renovations and athletic facilities. The money's there. So I just why stress about it as much as they do? I get, got to spend money to make money, and you want to try to make as much as possible, but come on now. All right, we've got a lot more comments here. Wow, I guess I'm a little bit behind here. I mean, try to skip through a few and catch up. Mr. Thanos, I love that name. I love that profile picture. Clemson beating Ohio State 38-20. That's his early prediction. Joshua Tripp, everybody thinking Ohio State's just going to get murdered. Everybody's picking Ohio State to lose to Clemson, so that'll be very interesting. And, of course, something we'll address later on, but interesting that the early consensus is Clemson to annihilate Ohio State again in the Fiesta Bowl. The train, Wisconsin should not be punished for playing an extra game. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Mr. Train. I don't know what exactly you were meaning? Like maybe not getting into the Rose Bowl? I think Wisconsin will get into the Rose Bowl. If that's what you're meaning by that, they definitely don't deserve to be punished for losing the Big Ten championship game and then not getting into the Rose Bowl. If that's what you're meaning. I think Ohio State or Oregon and Wisconsin would be a phenomenal Rose Bowl. So that remains to be seen. But I agree. Like, I can't imagine the committee saying, "Nah, we're going to leave you out because you played the Big Ten championship game." And the fact that Wisconsin held their own, led 21-7, only lost by 13, I think that even helps their case more of slipping in and going out west to California for that game. Jeff Wilson, good to have you. Good to have you. Once again, been a while. Vaughn Hook, do I think that Virginia will be playing in the Orange Bowl? You think they will? I would like to think that they will as well. I heard some rumors saying that it could be Florida versus Virginia in whatever bowl game that may be. And, of course, people are saying that Florida would just annihilate the Cavaliers. And I'm not going to be disagreeing with that. So, but I think Virginia should go to the Orange Bowl. Usually the tie-ins are, highest ranked or the best ACC team. Right now, the best ACC team is Clemson. Well, they're going to the playoffs, so it should go to number 2. And technically, Virginia was number 2 since they were the ACC runner-ups. So in theory, they should go to the Orange Bowl. But because of how bad they lost, there's a chance that they could say, "Now we want Virginia Tech. We want Virginia. We want whoever else might be in contention for that game." So, but once again, if it's a toss-up between Virginia and Virginia Tech, I don't see any way how you could say Virginia Tech. The Cavaliers beat the Hokies. The Cavaliers made the ACC title game. They took their beating. Now give them their reward by going down to Miami for the Orange Bowl. That's only fair, right? We took this beating. We knew we weren't going to win. Now send us to the Orange Bowl. I think that's only fair. Black Sheep, good to have you again. Saying that Ohio State got starched by LSU in the national championship, I'm assuming. Clemson starched Ohio State in the playoff. Axe compilations. Here we go. A great question here about Tua Tagovailoa. Do I think Tua is going to go pro or stay? I figure he will stay just because half of his season this year was cut because of his injury, and he would give himself another year to show out to the NFL. His half of his season was not cut. I said maybe the last quarter of his season, last third of his season, maybe, but not half. I would like to think he will stay, but as Tua has said himself, he might never be the same. That injury, I think, was a lot worse than people are realizing, or maybe are telling you, and or maybe that we as fans understand. He's going to go through a lot of rehab for that. And you look at Tua, a phenomenal person, a phenomenal football player. Money does talk. And I think he knows that if he went, he would probably be drafted late first round, early second. Obviously, he's an injury risk for NFL prospects, to say, do we really want a guy that's hurt? Is he going to be the same? So he does have that opportunity to come back and show that, yeah, I'm still legit. Maybe win a Heisman in the process and then improve his draft stock. And if I were Tua, I might consider that. This quarterback class is going to be very, very deep this year. Got guys like Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow that are both going to be going pro. It doesn't really help his case, especially for a guy that got hurt and missed the last part of the season. So Tua, if he was smart, I think he'd rehab. I think he'd come back next year, pray that you don't get hurt again. But I do not blame him, and I do understand why he would go pro this year. If I were him, I'd stick around. I stick around because I think you improve your draft stock with a good year next year, and I think you avoid falling too deep in this one because of your injury and because of the deep quarterback class. Jeff Wilson, who do I think will win the college football playoff? You will find that out on December 27th. You will find that out in a few weeks. And I know I hate to do that to you, but we can't announce our predictions too early now. That would just defeat the purpose. Defeat the purpose. So once again, we're going to have analysis on every single bowl game. That includes the national championship. That includes the 2 playoff games. You're not going to go without any information from us. We're going to have plenty of analysis on all these games. We're going to preview the playoff and the New Year's Six bowl games tomorrow around 1 o'clock Central Time. So don't miss out on that video. But we got y'all covered. We have got you covered. Don't you worry. You're not going to go without the little bit of knowledge from us. You're going to have plenty to give you. So I see, Jeff, I know you keep asking it, but I promise you're going to get your answer. I promise you'll get your answer in time. Gives you something to look forward to after the holidays, after the Christmas season. All right, let me see here. Yeah, so Axe compilation, I kind of already responded to you about regarding Tua. DJ Powers, all honesty, I was hoping for some shuffling of the deck yesterday. Most went as planned, whiteboarded and expected. No shock value made today easy, but I love the quality of the 4. I really don't think I could have said it better myself, DJ. I think that was a great way of putting it. I, too, was hoping for some chaos. I was like, man, imagine if Wisconsin beat Ohio State, which for a while looked like they could. Imagine if Virginia somehow beat Clemson, and then Baylor beat Oklahoma. Then you've got Oregon has beaten Utah. I mean, then what could happen? Who would the committee put in by that point? You'd have LSU. You'd have LSU. I mean, would the committee drop Ohio State out? Would they have dropped Clemson out? Baylor would have probably definitely slipped in as a Big 12 champion. Would you have pulled in another 2-loss team like Wisconsin, who beat Ohio State? Would they come in? So I would have loved to have seen some chaos. I would have loved to have seen a little more excitement. But as you said, whiteboarded and expected. The biggest upset was obviously Utah falling to Oregon. I think that was an upset that many were picking, and not one that we were necessarily shocked to see. I think everybody was just shocked to see it in the way that it happened. The fact that it was a 37-15 blowout loss in the Pac-12 championship game, I think that was the shocker. Not that Oregon won, but in the fashion that they won. And imagine, guys, if Utah wins that game, we're not talking Oklahoma right now. We're more than likely talking the Utes having a day against LSU. So, once again, crazy. Oklahoma, a team that hasn't missed the playoff under Lincoln Riley, had Oregon not come through for them, would not be playing in the playoff right now. So, if I'm Oklahoma, I'm sending a big thank you card out west to Eugene saying thank you to Mario Cristobal, Justin Herbert, and the entire Oregon Ducks football team for getting us into the college football playoff. And then you got to think again, guys. If Oregon hadn't lost to Auburn or Arizona State, would they be in the top 4 right now? I think a lot of these late projections have Oregon jumping up from like 13th to 5th or 6th in the final rankings because of how much they dominated Utah. They give you that type of performance as the number 7 or 8 team in the country, even the number 10 team in the country. And you're talking about Oregon maybe getting into that number 4 spot. If Oregon's a 1-loss team, they're in the playoff right now with the way they played against Utah. So once again, it's just amazing how one game can mess up everything. That's why every game matters. While, yes, you can usually afford a loss if it's a decent loss, every game matters. And you try to win that game by as big a margin as possible and as much in a convincing fashion as possible. So I feel bad for Oregon, but they're going to the Rose Bowl. If they win that, it's a phenomenal way for those seniors to go out. The biggest reason that Justin Herbert and those guys came back. Did they want to get to the playoff? Yes. But they won the Pac-12, and if they cap it off with a Rose Bowl victory, all is forgotten. Yeah, Jorge Melendez. If Baylor would have won, would I have put them in? Absolutely. If Baylor wins, they are in. If they had won, they are in. I was upset that Baylor did not win. I mean, not that I've got anything for Baylor or anything against Oklahoma. I just want to see something different. I think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people wanted to see a different team get in there. So I know LSU has yet to go there before, so that's technically different. But as I was talking to some guys, they were like, yeah, LSU's different, but LSU is consistently good. So it doesn't really feel like they're different. And I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. But looking at a team like Baylor, who years ago was consistently good under Art Briles, but now it's 2 years removed from a 1-11 season, I would have loved to have seen them in the top 4. That would have been fantastic. But instead, they failed in overtime. Charlie Brewer got hurt, but credit Matt Rule and the Bears team. They just do not quit. Find themselves down 10-0, battle back, it's 13-10.5. Charlie Brewer goes out the entire second half. All right, step in Zeno. I mean, good Lord. I mean, that team, no quitting them. And let me tell you what, with the young team that Baylor has, the future is very, very bright in Waco. And I do believe they will make the college football playoff under Matt Rule. Maybe as soon as next year. George Stice, what's going on, my man? It's been a while. It has been a while. So happy to have you. It's been a little bit since you've been able to join a live stream. So good to see you. Hope you're having a great weekend. Hope all of you guys are having a great weekend, a great start to your Sunday. As always, make sure to hit that like button. We usually got people in the chat telling you to do that, but the more likes we get, the more you help us out. So we already appreciate all of your comments and all of your views on this video. But if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button because that goes a long way for us. We've got 18 right now, 30 people in the chat. Would love to end the stream with 30. So once again, thank you all once again. Colin Giffen, yes. So LSU versus Oklahoma and Ohio State versus Clemson. That is what the playoff will look like on December 28th. Those two matchups. All should be great ones. Really would be very disappointed and very shocked if both of those games or one of those games is in blowout fashion. I will say that if I had to choose one to be a blowout, I would say LSU Oklahoma. I would say that if I had to choose one that I think could get ugly, it would be LSU annihilating the Sooners, but I'm not even predicting that. I still think it's going to be a competitive game. Oklahoma's defense isn't great, but they're not as bad as they've been in recent years, if that's any consolation. Sean T, thinking the spread for Ohio State Clemson going to be very, very small. Maybe Clemson by 1 or by 2, favored by 1 or 2. And yeah, I would expect once again, just based on the matchups, LSU spread to be a lot larger than the Clemson Ohio State game, and I can see that Ohio State Clemson game being close to a pick-em by kickoff. Very, very small, as you're mentioning, 1 or 2, and I think that's very, very possible. Eli, good to have you again. Always glad to have you and your insight on Group of 5 schools. You know, not that we ever dog on Group of 5, not that we ever do that, but I am always interested to hear your take as well on what you kind of have to say about that. And Memphis hadn't lost to Temple, then they deserve to be the last team in. And I would have to disagree with that. I would have to disagree with that. I mean, yes, they got 2 wins over Cincinnati. That's great. They beat Ole Miss back in the regular or beginning of the season. Not a great SEC team, but nonetheless an SEC team. They beat SMU, great, 10-2. So while their strength of schedule and maybe some of their wins would have been better than what UCF has had the past 2 years, there's no way that the committee would have put in an undefeated Memphis team and not had put in a undefeated Central Florida team the past 2 seasons, 2 years in a row that Central Florida went undefeated. Yes, I do agree Memphis had a better strength of schedule. I believe they played more quality opponents this year than UCF may have played in those 2 years prior. But UCF would have rioted if Memphis had somehow gotten in as the 4 seed, going undefeated in the American Athletic, unlike Central Florida. They would have rioted. Not that the committee should base the decisions off of what the fans think, but it just wasn't going to happen. Although it was a fantastic year for Mike Norvell, who has now departed to Florida State, and this Tiger squad. 1 loss to Temple, beat Cincinnati twice, win the American. I believe it's the first time they've done that, and might have a date against Alabama or a very elite team in their New Year's Six bowl game. And once again, a great opportunity to kick off a new era of Memphis Tigers football, and a great way to end a fantastic year for them. George, do I think Jake Fromm will stay for his senior season? I think he will. You know, I've credited Jake Fromm as being one of the better quarterbacks in the country, elite. I've even said at some point, I don't know why I may have gone that far, but he's usually fairly accurate. He's usually precise. He's not a bad quarterback, although I know many are wishing that Kirby Smart had went with Justin Fields instead of Jake Fromm. But I feel like Jake Fromm, kind of like Justin Herbert last year, feels like he has some unfinished business. That Georgia has been so close to making the playoff again, to maybe winning a national championship. I mean, he nearly won the national championship a few years ago. You know, just barely missed out on the playoff last year. Just barely missed out on the playoff this year. So I feel like he feels like there's some unfinished business. And Georgia, once again, still doing phenomenal on with recruiting. He still has an opportunity to build some chemistry with these wide receivers. I don't think Jake Fromm is NFL ready. And as I was saying with Tua Tagovailoa earlier, this is a deep, deep quarterback draft class. A lot of talented quarterbacks go into the league. Fromm would be wise to hang back because if he goes, he's not going to be a first-round pick. If Jake Fromm leaves, I think he's a third-round draft pick. But he can improve that stock by sticking around one more year and trying to win a national championship with Georgia, something that he definitely wants to do. They just fallen short. So some unfinished business, strong draft class, disappointing end of the season. I think Fromm will stick around one more year. Eli saying that the American Athletic Conference should not be considered a group of five. They're really a power level conference. And, they're playing like it. I can tell you that. They play extremely well. They're beaten. They have beaten plenty of Power 5 schools. They compete against Power 5 schools in the bowl season when they do face off against them. And they've got some elite teams. I mean, and I do use the word elite, but they have very solid teams year in and year out. Memphis, Cincinnati's very good. UCF 2 years ago and even this year is not a bad team, so still solid. SMU, look at a bunch of those teams. Houston usually is fairly solid. So plenty of big name schools and teams that compete year in and year out of the group of five, out of the American. Many people think they should be considered a Power 6 and the American being that sixth conference. And I'm not opposed to that because of the track record they've had, not just these past 3 years, but over probably the past decade. The decade is coming to an end, and the American has played extremely well during that time. And it looks like we're all caught up on these comments here. Let me respond to this message. Of course, got phones blowing up. Coaching carousel. Coaching carousel is huge, guys. Coaching carousel is big. This next few days is going to be very telling. You're going to see a lot of these big Power 5 programs filling their coaching vacancies. I think starting this afternoon and probably carrying through Wednesday, you're going to see a lot of these coaches getting hired and some more coaches getting fired, honestly. A lot of coaching changes coming your way. We've already had some big ones. Norville from Memphis to Florida State, Schiano to Rutgers, Lane Kiffin from Florida Atlantic to Ole Miss. Obviously, that was a big ordeal. Was he going to Arkansas? Was he staying? Was he going to Ole Miss? So a lot of questions there. And so coaching carousel is going to be huge this next week and really leading up to the national championship. Usually that's when things start to die down, is after the bowl season really gets going. But until then, it's going to be clicking. And that's one of the best times of the year to see all these different coaching changes. All right, got that taken care of. So we'll be wrapping things up here shortly. Like I said, going for about an hour because, of course, on a day that I'd love to be watching the selection show all day, we'll be handling a beautiful thing called college finals, which is always a blast. But it means that we get our reward is a very long break over Christmas. So. DJ Powers, got to run. Webinar for entrepreneurs. I got to give up some secrets in a different game. So, all right, my man. Well, good luck. Good luck, DJ. Thank you for joining us. Have fun with that webinar. We'll see you next time. Hope to see you next time for sure. So, once again, thank you for joining us. And George Stye should be studying for finals, but I got to watch my man Grid. George, I appreciate that, man. That hits me right here. So, back at you, man. I appreciate that. You're the man, George. One of the best. That's why you're one of the moderators and one of the best viewers that we've got here at the Gridiron Expert. And your question earlier, I just now see it. What do I see for Tate Martell's future team manager? Well, possibly. Tate Martell is one of the weirdest cases. That we have in college football because, he transfers from Ohio State. Goes down to Miami, thinks he's just going to win the Miami job. And personally, I'm so happy he didn't. I mean, that sounds mean to say, guys, but I'm so happy he didn't because he's a guy that I feel like everything he just wants is handed to him. and he had to finally work for something at Ohio State. He had to finally work for something at Miami, and he didn't know how to do it. So, yeah, George, I think he'd be fantastic as a team manager, although I don't even know if he could win that position. I don't even know if he could win that. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Very interesting. Good Lord. Phone blowing up here. So, yeah, I don't know if he's going to try to transfer again. I don't know if he's going to try to stick around. I don't know what his plan is. But it's a very, very bad case that he has down at Miami. And he has definitely failed down there as well. Eli, now I would love that. Liberty versus Arkansas State in the Cure Bowl. Please make it happen. I would love nothing more. That would be a fantastic matchup for multiple reasons. Of course, your place versus mine. Although I'm not the biggest Arkansas State fan, I do support them. Hope they always win. So that would be a fantastic game for that. Hugh Freeze facing off against Arkansas State. While many do forget, Hugh Freeze did coach one single season here in Jonesboro at Arkansas State University. So that would be kind of cool to see Hugh Freeze, of course, mostly known for his work at Ole Miss, both good and bad, facing off against one of his former coaching stops. And then the Cure Bowl, just a fantastic bowl game there. And I think Arkansas State might accept a bowl bid there this season, finishing the year 7-5. So that would be an awesome bowl game. Regardless, Eli, you should be very happy. Liberty making a bowl game, first year under Hugh Freeze, first year they're eligible. We're getting, 7 wins this year? I mean, phenomenal. First legit year to try to make a bowl game at the FBS level. And they're doing it. They're doing a fantastic job. I know their strength of schedule is not great, but it doesn't matter. They're still going bowling. And Hugh Freeze, great job this year. Don't think he'll stick around for very long. I think this year or next year with all these coaching jobs opening up that he will end up leaving. But hey, you got to enjoy it while you last, you know? So, yeah, Liberty, Arkansas State, I would love that. I'd love nothing more. Eli saying App State needs to get a New Year's 6 spot as well as an at-large. They're really good. They are good. They're solid. They're not bad at all. My thing is, Eli, and I'd love to hear your take on this. There's rumors going around that Eli Drinkwitz, of course, is going to be a very big coaching candidate this year. Maybe going to take the Arkansas vacancy as soon as tonight, maybe later this week. Here's my take on Eli Drinkwitz. Great coach, has experience, yes, as a coordinator at some big stops. This was his first year as a head coach in any capacity. And he inherited an App State squad, Eli, that is very, very good, and I wish was going to a New Year's 6 bowl game. Memphis deserves it, of course, more than any of the others. But they're very, very good. Beat North Carolina, beat South Carolina, ran the table in the Sun Belt outside of that Georgia Southern loss. But Drinkwitz has 1 year of head coaching experience with an App State squad that was built by Scott Satterfield, who's now left for Louisville. You know, App State coming into the season was the most experienced team based on returning starters in the entire Sun Belt, which, as you mentioned, is underrated. And I do agree. There are usually some good squads in there, competitive squads. You got App State, you got Arkansas State. Troy is usually competitive. Georgia Southern, usually very difficult to beat and stop with that option. And then you had Louisiana this year. So some tough schools that could hang with some Power 5 teams and could hang in the bowl games. But Drinkwitz does not, I repeat, does not need to go get another head coaching job. And if he does, it does not need to be an SEC program or, in my opinion, a Power 5 program. If he does get a Power 5 job, maybe it should be in the ACC, one of the weakest conferences in the country. He doesn't need to go jump from App State to Arkansas or Missouri or wherever they're considering him in the SEC. And it's ridiculous. He didn't do anything at App State. He won, great. But I do believe that most coaches could have won at App State this season with the talent that they had. It's like getting the answers to a test before you take it. Required no work. I'm not saying he didn't put in any work. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that he did not have to try to go out and recruit players and make players fit his scheme, because he has some very experienced players on that App State team. And he was like, you know what, I'm going to take you and I'm going to run with you. And they did great. National ranking, beat 2 Power 5 schools at their house. Not great Power 5 schools, but still. But that does not need to happen. Drinkwitz does not need to leave App State. He needs to stay. And hopefully other athletic directors out there know that. I'm not just saying that for Arkansas' sake. I'm saying that for anybody's sake. I don't think Eli Drinkwitz is to the point yet where he can leave. I thought that for Mike Norville for a little bit, but I think he can do well at Florida State. I genuinely do. Might give that team the young spark that they need to go out and finally compete again in the ACC. But give Drinkwitz a couple years at App State, not just one. To me, that would be a very hasty hire by whoever does it. All right, last few questions here. I do want to answer Walter's question. What bowl game do I think Notre Dame plays in? You heard Camping World against Texas. I heard the exact same rumor. That would be Camping World against Texas. And, Walter, I think a lot of people are saying that would be a huge mismatch. Of course, in favor of Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame would potentially run away with that game against Texas. I love that matchup. Just getting to see Texas versus Notre Dame, two historic programs. Texas, despite being 7-5, is not bad. So I don't know. I don't know. I have heard that. I think Notre Dame sitting at 10-2 would love to see them get in to a New Year's Six bowl game. I don't think it's going to happen just based on the way conference championship weekend shaped out. There would be an at-large, of course. Or maybe an Orange Bowl appearance for Notre Dame, but I doubt it. Many people at one point thought it might be Notre Dame versus Memphis or whoever the group of five team is, which in this case it would be Memphis. But I don't know all the tie-ins, Walter. I really don't. I don't know all the tie-ins. I'd like to think it's going to be better than Camping World. Let's say that. Where did they go a few years ago? I know they went to the Music City a few years ago. I know they went to the wasn't the Camping World, it was like the Citrus Bowl or something like that. I know they went there a few years ago. They played I think it was LSU, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting what happens. So once again, we'll know all those bowl pairings by the end of the night, and of course we'll have enough analysis on that later on. George, thank you for stopping by, man. It's been a while. I hope all is going well at school for you. Good luck studying. Always happy to be on these live streams. Always happy when you are able to join us on these live streams. So anytime to provide that Sunday afternoon entertainment. Good luck with finals. Get through it, and of course have a safe, happy holidays and safe trip home. And just enjoy your break, man. I know I will. So once again, thank you for stopping by and for all your support. Jack Thice, very quick to say to ask compilations. What would happen to Bama if Saban got fired? And he's just immediately haven't seen a comment from him all stream. That's ridiculous. He's not getting fired. You're an idiot. I love it. That is the beauty of these live streams. But no, Saban, of course, not going to get fired. But hypothetically, I get where you're coming from. Hypothetically, let's say Alabama fires him. You know who's going to come take over? This great man named Dabo Swinney. He will take over as the next Alabama head coach, I believe, whenever Nick Saban calls it quits. Alabama will never fire him. Never fire him. It will not happen unless he gave him a reason to, such as a big scandal or something like that. But that's not going to happen. Nick Saban will not get fired when he chooses to retire, which might not ever be. He might coach until he dies. He might die out there on the football field. But when he decides to call it quits, Alabama will go for a big-name coach that can continue the success that Saban has had for this entire decade. And that guy will probably be someone along the lines of Dabo Swinney or someone like that. Or maybe they'll pull someone out of retirement that we least expect. But I think we're a ways away from that. We're at least 5 years away from that happening, from Saban and Alabama trying to work out who their next head coach was going to be. At least 5 years away. So all remains to be seen, though. It's going to be very, very exciting stuff. Coaching carousel is getting underway, guys. We're going to have plenty of content out on that as well with these bowl games. Eli, I saw you should do a call-in show after all the bowl pairings are announced. And we might be able to swing that, of course, with final schedule, as I'm sure you're going to be handling some of those as well up at Liberty. Obviously, it could be a pain for us, but if we do have the time, and I'm going to do my best to make the time, we will do a call-in show to discuss these bowl pairings, discuss what you guys think about them, We're going to have a list out there for some of the top bowl games to watch out for, and then predictions and all the bowl games starting next week. And with that, I think I'm going to call this to a close. Like George, I'm going to have to get on the road and get down and hitting the books as well, and also getting to the books of this gridiron work and getting some content out for you guys later this week. But I do want to thank all of you guys for joining us on this Sunday morning. I do want to thank all of you guys for jumping in early at 11 a.m. Central Time to watch the college football playoff selection show for the top four. The playoffs are set, guys. Now it's just time for the New Year's Six and the rest of the bowl slate. Plenty of content coming your way this week. Plenty of content coming your way next week as well. Don't miss any of it. So, guys, thank you so much for watching us here on this Sunday morning. You guys all take care. Hope you've all had a great weekend. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you later this week right here at the Gridiron Expert.